Previously on this channel, we looked at the best airport rail transit connections in North America. Today, we're going worldwide. The 10 best airport rail transit connections on planet Earth are coming up next. This is CityNerd, new content on cities and transportation every Wednesday at noon Pacific. Viewer suggested topics down in the comments, always welcome. And this one's been hanging out there since my North American airports video. And I actually haven't done anything global in a while. And I don't know about you, but I'm really starting to get that international travel itch. So can we just be done with the variants, please? Now, if you've seen the first video, this one's gonna be a bit different. I will only be looking at rail, again, for the same reasons I did in my first video. It's just more legible and predictable. So if there's an amazing bus connection, it's not gonna show up here. Again, call me a rail snob, guilty as charged. But my metric this time is gonna be a bit simpler. In the first airports video, I basically just used travel time to the central city, including walking and waiting time. This time though, I'm just looking at train frequency from the airport toward the central city. Travel time is important, but what's really important is the travel time relative to other ground transportation options. So my assumption here is if a train trip into the central city is on the long side, well, the taxi ride was probably gonna be long too, so it's kind of a wash. So I'm not gonna worry about specific destinations too much. Not everyone's going to the central city. And what's most important is that there's frequent service that gets you connected to the metro network. But for each of the airports on this list, I will give you a travel time to a central destination, just as a point of reference. So you could say that, unlike the previous video, I'm not giving credit for an airport that's closer into the city, but I think you'll see I actually am indirectly. When an airport is closer in, it's more likely to be connected directly to the city's metro system, which makes a huge difference. So, as they say, frequency is freedom, and I'm measuring this in the PM peak hour, so the number of trains between 5 and 6 p.m. local time. I definitely could have done something more complicated that includes span of service, like considering midday or night owl, but that would be like a lot more time consuming, and frankly, I get depressed as it is just trying to calculate my hourly wage for making these videos. Also, if you want to argue for other criteria, like whether there's nonstop service to the city center, or if there's luggage storage racks, or there's cocktails on board, you can make your case down in the comments. For this though, I'm just gonna assume you want to get to where you're going ASAP. Final caveat, this is based on existing weekday service at the time of recording, which is March 2022. And some of it may be pandemic impacted. The numbers I'm relying on mostly come from Google Transit feed, but I did try to back check everything against agency schedules. And of course there are some services in different places on the globe that don't show up in GTFS. So I did the best I could to account for those. Okay, preamble over, let's get into it. Number 10 is Hongqiao Airport in Shanghai. This one was tough to research. Yeah, I do realize there's a non-alphabet website I can access to get better data and aerials, but I just prefer to have US surveillanceware running on my laptop. Thanks. In the peak hour, you've got 9 Line 2 trains and 6 Line 10 trains running toward the center of the city for a total of 15 trains. Line 2 is only available at Terminal 2, and Line 10 branches, so it doesn't have as much frequency. I didn't include the Hongqiao train station, which is half a mile away, so kind of walkable, but I didn't consider it to be part of the airport. So let's see, you can hop on Line 2 to get to, say, People's Park in 27 minutes, where you can visit the Urban Planning Exhibition Center. I love it. The trip will run you 7 yuan or about $1.10 US. Quick honorable mention for Shanghai Pudong, which only has 13 trains at PM peak, so just missed the list. But 4 of them are maglev, which gets you close to the center of the city in about 8 minutes. Number 9 is Indira Gandhi Airport in Delhi. Second largest city on the planet, depending how you're measuring. Yeah, I've got cities on this list where aerials and street views are just really hard to come by. You've got 10 trains on the Magenta line of Delhi's metro system, which stops at Terminal 1, and 6 trains an hour on the airport line, which stops at terminals 2 and 3 and has a more direct connection to the city center. It's 21 minutes to New Delhi station. Fare for that trip is 50 rupees or about 66 cents US. Number 8 is Amsterdam Schiphol, which isn't connected to the city's kind of small metro network, but there is a major rail station right underneath the airport where you can catch all kinds of trains that'll get you just about anywhere in the Netherlands, and you can catch the Thalys for a high-speed connection to Belgium or Paris. I count 17 trains total in the PM peak hour. If you just need to get into Amsterdam Centraal, you can hop on a Sprinter, and it's about an 18-minute trip that will run you €570 or about $6.30 US. I'm sure there are viewers out there who have been to Schiphol more recently than I have, so let me know if you have anything to add down in the comments. Number 7 is Shanghai International, which I think probably has a real name that I have no hope of pronouncing correctly. Can't even probably pronounce Shanghai correctly. Anyway, I gave the city a brief shout out in my beaches video, and the airport has a couple different connections. You get 12 Blue Line trains in the peak hour and 6 intercorridor trains for a total of 18. The Blue Line will get you to Chennai Park, not the real name of the station, which I would completely butcher, and that's right in the center of the city. Fare for that is 40 rupees or about 53 cents US. I know I've got viewers from India out there. Let me know if you've taken the trains from the airport in Delhi or Chennai and whether my information is any good. Number 6 is London Heathrow. Before we get to that, let's hit a couple other London airports that were near misses. Gatwick is pretty far flung from the city, but it does have 12 trains an hour, and it's probably pretty convenient if your destination is in the south of London. And then City Airport, which is smaller but more central, has 14 trains an hour on the Docklands Light Rail. For Heathrow, it has 3 services. You've got 12 trains an hour on the Underground's Piccadilly line, which is a bit of a milk run, but it'll get you to the center of the city and hits a lot of great transfer points. And then if you want to get to the center of the city quickly, there's the Heathrow Express with 4 trains an hour that'll get you into Paddington Station in 17 minutes. There's also an all-stop train on that line that runs twice an hour. So that's a total of 18 trains. Same as Chennai, but I used travel time to city center as kind of a tiebreaker. Luckily, I didn't use fare. You can get it for as low as £3.50 on the Underground. It's about $4.60 US. And then the Heathrow Express is £25. That's about $32.78 US today, and probably not your best choice for group travel. Number 5 is Singapore Changi, aka the world's finest airport. Changi reminds me of the old quote about New York Penn Station, or at least the first half of it. You really do enter Singapore like a god. The airport has a station on the Singapore MRT system's east-west line, and it's got 20 trains an hour, but there is a catch. It's a spur line that really requires a transfer to get anywhere. You can only get as far as Tanah Merah, and then you have to change to a different train on the east-west line. So I struggled a bit with placing this. I mean, how is this better than like the JFK air train to Archer Avenue, which I'm definitely not counting? And I guess the answer is the station at Changi is still a seamless entry into the MRT system. You can get to Raffles Place in 35 minutes, and it's $1.91 Singapore or about $1.40 US. Number 4 is Madrid Barajas. Let's just take a moment here to sing the praises of Spain's airports. Like, all of them. Well designed, easy to navigate, great free Wi-Fi everywhere. Anyway, you've got Line 8 on the Madrid Metro, which serves all terminals with 12 trains an hour. It only gets you as far as Nuevos Ministerios, but the network has pretty good frequency and the connections are pretty slick. Then you've got the C1 and C10 trains on the Cercanías system, which is sort of Madrid's commuter rail or regional rail network. There are 4 trains an hour on each line, and they only serve Terminal 4, but they might get you into the city a bit quicker depending on your destination. So that's 20 trains in the peak hour, and any of the trains will get you to Puerta del Sol in about 30 minutes with a transfer. Metro from the airport has a surcharge on it, so it's going to be about €5 or about $5.50 US, depending on your destination. The Cercanías is a better deal if it works for you. Only €260 or $2.90 US, and I love this. If you have a ticket for an AVE high-speed rail connection at Chamartin or Atocha, then your trip on the Cercanías is free. It's such a deal. Number 3 is Dubai International. A bit of trivia. My good friend Wikipedia here says this is the busiest airport in the world for international passenger traffic, which is impressive until you realize that domestic air travel in the UAE is basically non-existent. With Dubai though, there's just something about that new city smell. Compared to everything else on this list, it's an airport and a city that are just so easy to figure out. The Red Line has stops at Terminals 2 and 3, and there are 24 trains an hour that'll get you to the Burj Khalifa Dubai Mall station in about 23 minutes. And that trip is 6 dirhams on a null card. This is pronunciation hell, or about $1.65 US. Okay, while you're puzzling over what could possibly be in the top 2, quick reminder to like this video if it is in any way brightening your otherwise dreary day, and subscribe if this kind of content floats your boat. Checking the numbers, hey, we hit 30,000 subscribers this week, so sincere thanks for that, and we can now fill BMO Field in Toronto, at least until they expand it for the 2026 World Cup. BMO is home to Major League Soccer's FC Toronto and the CFL Argonauts. Nice location, good transit access, still way too much impervious surface. Come on, Toronto, we need you to set the pace. I've already touched on honorable mentions, so let's get into the dishonorables, which is basically the entire Western Hemisphere of planet Earth. Can we please get a direct metro connection in Mexico City or Sao Paulo or anywhere in New York? Can we just, extend the Astoria line to LaGuardia? Wasn't there a time when American ingenuity could build stuff like that? Or here's a crazy idea. I know of a US city with an enormously busy passenger airport, bigger than some of the ones on this list actually. It's close to town and is in fact located right on one of the biggest tourism and employment corridors on the planet. The corridor in question, which runs north-south, intersects the city's busiest bus lines, which run east-west at roughly 1 mile increments, and it connects directly downtown. Or, I don't know, I guess we could just have a low-capacity monorail that runs half a mile off the corridor and doesn't connect to the airport or downtown. Or we could just build an elaborate tunnel for private taxis. I mean, those are both really good ideas too. Okay, number 2 is Tokyo. It's not Narita, which does have a lot of train service, but the airport's pretty far out and the service is kind of fragmented. I counted 14 trains and that leaves Narita just short of this list. Instead, we're going to Haneda, which is much closer in to both Tokyo and Yokohama. I count 25 trains total in the PM peak hour. You've got the KQ Airport line, which runs 12 trains in the peak hour and can get you north to Shinagawa Station in Tokyo or south to Yokohama Station. Or the Tokyo monorail runs 13 trains in the peak hour, and the monorail can get you to Tokyo Station in 30 minutes with a transfer at Hamamatsucho. The monorail will run you 500 yen or about $4.20 US. The KQ Airport line has some different stop patterns and some through running. It wasn't super easy to figure out. This website actually claims that you can get all the way to Tokyo Station in 20 minutes and the fare is 460 yen or about $3.90 US. I didn't see that service anywhere in the Google Transit information. So people who have used transit to get from Haneda into central Tokyo, let me know what you think is the best way to go. And that brings us to number 1, which is in Seoul, not Incheon, which is practically in a different metro area altogether. We're going closer in to the airport that did used to function as Seoul's primary international airport, and now is still a pretty strong secondary option. And that's Gimpo. You've got 3 different services here. There's the airport line, where 10 trains run on the all-stop service on their way from Incheon to central Seoul. There's Seoul Metro Line 9, which runs 7 trains in the peak hour through Gimpo, down south to the Gangnam area. And there's Metro Line 5, which runs 17 trains in the peak hour through the north side of the central city. The airport line will get you into Seoul Station in 22 minutes, and it'll run you 1,450 won, which is about $1.20 US. Anyway, that's 34 trains in the peak hour that'll get you all over the city, and I do believe that's as good as it gets on this planet. And that's all I got. This was a tough one to research, and I could have missed something somewhere. So let me know, or you can definitely take issue with my criteria. Make your case down in the comments. Please do keep the great topic suggestions coming. I'll be back with a new installment next week, and I'll see you then. How to pronounce Gimpo? Gimpo?